We got here. It was like set up. It was easy.
Hi, I am well. And you?
I said the exact same thing as you did. Like, hold on, just make sure.
How about
Because I
you?
have Allison and texted. Make sure we just.
Was it at the last minute that we lost a couple people today?
This is new for us.
I just heard of one. There was somebody else. Lisa.
Oh, maybe Lisa was the only one?
That's what I heard of.
Oh, okay.
Why?
I thought the email said we were short too, maybe not.
I didn't see an email.
Okay, she can.
pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item of business is to approve the minutes from our March 29 meeting. Been moved, seconded. Any additional comments, questions, changes? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Anyone signing up to, or has signed up to speak?
No.
Okay. Brian Fountain will go over our local labor exemptions. Brian?
Good afternoon. I have two local labor exemption requests to report on today for this month. The first one is related to the A50 LLC project. That is an exemption that was requested for the installation of the specialized gypcrete floor, cementous floor underlayment product on the 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th floors of the two buildings at the project site on East Broad Street. The accepted contractor was Henderson Johnson out of Syracuse, and that exemption was based on the specialized construction and no local labor available in the area. This is one that we've seen in the past. We don't have any contractors here in Rochester that do the gypcrete product. Any questions on that first one? Okay. Hearing none. The second one is the USRE Rochester LLC project. This was one that was an exemption that was based on the warranty issues related to the installation of specialized equipment. And this was for the security, access control, and security card readers at the project site. ADT is was the supplier of the security systems. They utilized their local crew for as much as they could, but they needed more folks. So based on their warranty, they had a contractor called Stellar Technologies out of Buffalo that came and provided the remaining resources that were necessary for the installation.
What was that number of the Buffalo folks coming in?
Stellar Technologies.
The number of how many?
It was 6 coming from Stellar. I think it was 12 total, including the ADT, local ADT folks, and I believe it was 6 from Stellar.
6 local, 6 Buffalo.
Yep.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Brian? Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Next item on the agenda is our local grill, local labor monitoring report. And you said Kevin's doing this? Oh, he's not doing this. Okay. Maybe Zoom magic or something.
I can't pull that off, don't ask me. This was fun.
So we all have copies of the local labor monitoring report. And I'm sure we can ask staff if we have any questions, and we can also get answers
From Kevin, he's available.
Any questions on that? Yes, I was a little surprised by the Galena development. We had 3 class workers from out of the area that Kevin discovered on the 2nd of March. And the project manager didn't know anything about the local requirement for workers. That's sort of up to the project owner to make sure that all the project managers are aware that local labor is required.
Mm-hmm.
So they were removed from the project. All right, any other questions on that? All right. Next up is the financial report. You have copies in your packets. Pretty straightforward, no strong lines. We're off to a very strong start. A lot of projects coming in early in the year, so my eyes always go down to the revenue and expenses and how we are doing with the budget. And we're well ahead of budget, well ahead on revenues, and doing well on the budgeted budgeted expenses. There are a couple of areas where we've got timing issues, but overall, we're doing very well. Any questions? Greg is with us today, so I'm not Greg. Okay, all right. Okay, let's see. First project is COMIDA Photonics, and we have Mark Colbert with us. And good afternoon. Your position, Mark?
I'm the CEO.
The CEO. Okay, great.
Tactica Photonics Incorporated has been developing and manufacturing high-end laser systems for more than 20 years. Tactica is renowned for providing the widest wavelength coverage of lasers. The company is proposing to relocate to the town of Pittsburgh to allow for growth and expansion. Many options were explored, including a move to Colorado before selecting Monroe County. Renovations to the facility will include offices, laboratories, clean room facilities, and warehousing. The $2.1 million project is projected to create 18 new FTEs over the next 3 years, in addition to the 35 existing FTEs. The applicant is seeking approval of sales tax exemptions only, and the benefit to incentive ratio is 49:1.
Thanks, Sonia. Would you like to tell us a little bit more about your project?
Sure, we're happy to do that. We're actually excited to do the relocation. As she mentioned, it's great. I should have you write for me more often. That was fantastic. Thank you. Our focus is really in 3 key markets. It's that photonics community that we talk about in Rochester all the time. But we're one of the true photonics companies because in order to be a photonics company, you not only have to manipulate light, you have to generate it as well. Our 3 key markets are very important markets. Number 1 is quantum technologies. So that's being driven as a national initiative, and that's something that we've been partaking in as well. So that's 70% of what we do, but we also participate in biophotonics as well as materials. So many of the things that you use on a daily basis, we actually influence, and we do that right here from the Rochester, New York area. So we've been here since 2006. I relocated the company from the Boston area to Rochester because of available workforce and have continued to enjoy the growth since that time. We have been Rochester Top 100 a number of times until we became a larger part of a subsidiary based in Germany. So globally, we're approximately 440 people. We're trying to bring more of that back to the upstate New York area on a regular basis. And in 2017, we began manufacturing R&D of our own products here. And currently, about 20% of what comes through our doors at a given point is manufactured in Farmington currently, and we intend to shift that to Pittsburgh.
Nice to hear that. We want to encourage you to stay here and grow here and bring other opportunities here, and things we're not going to Colorado. So,
Happy to be here.
any questions? Project. Okay. We didn't require a public hearing for this project, but I will ask you some local labor questions. Are you aware of our local labor policy?
I am.
And do you anticipate any local labor exemptions at this time?
I am not.
And are you aware of any exemptions needing to be requested 45 days in advance?
I am aware of that.
Thank you. Procedure process is complete. We'll now move forward with the reading of the resolution.
A regular meeting of the county.
And all. Moved and seconded that we made the reading of the resolution and others on the agenda today because we have the resolution in our packets and we'll review this. So is there, so all those in favor of that? Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, I will now ask for a motion for inducement and final resolution approving the sales tax exemption. Moved by Joe, seconded by Troy. Any other comments, questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Good luck.
Greg.
Thank you.
Good luck to you.
Come on, visit us. Go ahead. after Justin finishes the building, we'll be happy to have you.
I just want my cell phone to go solar.
Thank you, Mark.
All right, next project is Micropen Technologies. And we have Ed
Petrozola.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Micropen Technologies Corporation is constructing an approximately 9,200 square foot addition to its existing 40,000 square foot facility in the village of Honeywell Falls in the town of Mendon. Micropen Technologies is engaged in the printed electronics sector. The company utilizes a proprietary printing system to design, develop, manufacture, and sell electrical devices and components. Targeted industries include medical, industrial, defense, and aerospace markets. The expansion will include clean room space and office space. Micropen plans to create 10 new FTEs in addition to its existing 97 FTEs. The $3.8 million project is seeking a real property tax abatement and a sales tax exemption. The cost to benefit ratio is 17:1.
Thank you. So, would you like to tell us a little bit more?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Thanks for considering our company. The name of the company, Micropen, is the first indicator of our underlying core technology. We are an electronic printing technology company. Electronic printing are essentially methods of creating electrical circuits onto a variety of different surfaces, right? Some of the names of electronic printing systems that you may be familiar with are screen printing and pad printing and inkjet printing. What differentiates us and gives us a known competitive advantage has to do with the surfaces that we're able to print on. The surfaces that we do print on are usually not flat and not hard. They are usually 3D or inflatable or flexible or malleable in some fashion, like medical balloons and catheters and tubes. The other advantage that we have is the variety of materials that we can print with. We generally print with precious metal inks, gold, silver, and platinum in particular, to create these circuits. The primary markets that we're in have already been mentioned by Anna, which have to do with the medical device market, a burgeoning market, defense, space, and then general electronics. We've been in Honeywell Falls before me. I think it was about 1998 when the company moved from Monroe Avenue to Paper Mill in Honeywell Falls. We've been growing pretty steadily since. Very profitable company, happy to be where we are, great workforce. And we have really experienced a rather significant spike recently in our growth. And that is what is causing us to need more manufacturing and office space. So we're going to build with Justin. So Justin's a popular guy here today. So we're going to be building on our present acreage. So it represents a rather firm commitment to the place we're at right now, which we're happy about, and all of our employees are happy about. So that's it.
So in Honeywell Falls, that's separate from the Omcraft.
Yeah, we have two divisions. We have an Omcraft division, which is a division that designs, manufactures, and sells high voltage chip resistors. Chip resistors are part of a family of electronics called passive components, which are on every circuit board of any device, whether it's your phone or your refrigerator or your car or your TV or whatever the case may be. They all have printed circuit boards of some size in them, and all printed circuit boards have resistors and capacitors and diodes, and those are components. We make about 10 million chip resistors a year. The other division is the micropen division, and that is a division that is different in the sense that it is an organization that co-develops products with pretty much always large medical device OEMs. And the devices that we manufacture there are all based upon the macro drivers of the medical device market itself, which are the preference for minimally invasive procedures. Minimally invasive procedures require a really small incision. A small incision requires a really small device. And since it's going to be navigated through the vascular highway, it requires something that is malleable, inflatable, really small. And the trick becomes, how do you print a circuit onto a surface like that? And that's where we come in. So we have proven the ability to print very, very, very fine lines on really small balloons and small tubes and catheter wires. To give you a sense of scale of the lines that we print with, a single human hair is approximately 70 microns wide, and we print 70 to 100 microns pretty much all day long. So it's a really, really differentiated and competitive printing technology, and we're very, very proud of it, and we continue to invest in it because it's a very, very competitive market.
Absolutely. So you're talking about things like defibrillators, x-rays, MRI equipment, patient monitoring equipment, airport detection systems, the Mars space rover?
Yeah, those are all where our resistors reside. So there are two, yes, we are in space. And it's a testimony to the reliability of our resistors. You cannot make a service call on Mars or Jupiter. It's pretty tough to do that. So we have to have really reliable products, which we do. Those are the ones that you just mentioned are all of the applications of the Ohmcraft division with resistors. So there are two elements to the medical market. One is equipment, which you just mentioned, defibrillators, MRI patient monitoring systems. The other one is the one I mentioned earlier, which are devices. They are different, but we service both. So, and the micropen division products or applications would be medical balloons, medical catheters that we print on, all of which conduct some function once inside the body. It can cauterize, it can deliver drugs, it can sense, etc., which are really the drivers of the medical device market today. There are two macro drivers. So I mentioned one, which is the preference for really minimally invasive procedures. The other one is people like me, baby boomers. We are all entering what is euphemistically called our procedure years. And there's about 75 million of us. So that is what is creating a lot of the growth. So.
Yeah, almost, yes. But just to go back to Omcraft a minute, the Hubble telescope, missile systems and satellites are all part of that division too. So pretty darn impressive.
Yeah.
World impact really. But what you're doing here, in the Rochester area and expansion of 9,200 square feet of your existing 40,000 square foot facility.
Yeah.
That just shows your products are in demand. So we're glad you're staying here, and we'll bring more out of your operations
We're happy to. Thank
to the
you.
Rochester area. So, any questions?
Of two. Do you see a problem getting 10% more employees going forward with your requirement of 10?
No.
And within those 10, can you break down management, administrative, and production?
The bulk is still going to be production, but there'll be a couple of engineers perhaps and material scientists, people that we generally
find a need for every year and a half or so. I do not anticipate any problem at all with the number 10.
Question. I don't know how related this is, but you mentioned commodities, gold, silver, and platinum. Do you see that other than increasing cost? Do you see that being a problem, being able to access?
So far, lead times have radically expanded and increased for sure. And it causes companies to then, you get involved in this vicious cycle. What companies generally do when they sense a supply chain interruption is they will order more. And when everybody does that, it just continues to increase the scope of the problem. There is a little bit of that going on. Our primary precious metal that we print with is silver. That is least impacted.
Yeah.
So we're happy about that. Not to get into some real technical jargon here, but our resistors use a lot of, well, not a lot, we use some palladium, and the largest producer of palladium in the world is Russia. So there's been a little bit of an interruption there, but we are hard at work and trying to figure out an alternative to that, because we would care not to continue to purchase any of that from there. So, yeah.
Thank you.
But the precious metal markets, we pay really, really close attention, both for supply and for price.
Understand.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? All right, you're a great spokesperson.
Thanks. It's a great subject to talk about. I love it.
Good job. So we had a public hearing on this project on April 14th. Were there any comments?
There were none.
Okay. I'll ask you some local labor questions. Are you aware of our local labor policy?
I am.
And do you anticipate any local labor exemptions at this time?
I do not.
Are you aware that any exemptions need to be requested 45 days in advance?
I am.
Okay, great. Thank you. The secret process is complete. We have waived the reading of the resolution. So I'll now ask for a motion for inducement of final resolution approving real property tax abatement and sales tax exemption.
So moved.
Moved by Joe, seconded by Rhett. Any other questions? I'll take a roll call vote. Jay is absent, Lisa is absent. Troy?
Yeah.
Joe?
Yeah.
Rhett?
Yay.
And Anna said yay. So congratulations.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Good luck.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thanks.
Thank you. Very exciting. Next project is, KZ and Sons, Inc. And we have, Diaca Media.
Diaca.
Well, welcome. So, on and talk about this project.
JD and Sons Incorporated, a wholesale seafood processing company, is constructing a new 28,000 square foot building in the town of Chilai. JD and Sons is seeking approval again, as there have been some issues with 2 prior locations, which forced JD and Sons to look elsewhere within Minor County. This expansion will allow for future growth while keeping the existing facility open. JD and Sons plans to create 13 new FTEs in addition to its existing 60 FTEs in Minor County. The $5.7 million project is seeking a real property tax abatement, mortgage reporting tax exemption, and sales tax exemption. The cost to benefit ratio is 9:1.
So, tell us more. I know that you had the 2 other sites that didn't work out.
Yeah, so I kind of know what it's like to go on after Elvis after this guy. But anyways, we don't sell anything on Mars or anything like that. What we do is we sell a lot of fish. We process everything here. Majority of everything we sell, we process here in Rochester. We do a great deal of business with Wegmans. At this point, we are completely landlocked in our current building. Our ability to even grow is it's impossible. So we just need a new building to grow, hopefully keep the business going.
And family owned and operated since
Correct.
1987, so that's
Yeah,
great.
my father immigrated to Rochester from Greece in 73 or 4, I think it's 74. And so he just started a little local fish market from the apartments that we lived in, and sort of grew from there. Over time, sort of turned into this. He passed away 15 years ago, unfortunately.
That's your carrying on the business.
We're trying.
Still very successful. Happy that you're staying here and growing here. Questions?
How many total number of employees you have?
Right now, it's about 60. What we do is, so everything we do is very labor intensive. We make clams casino for weapons. We stuff mushrooms. Everything we do, we cut. We have some machines, but everything gets touched. So a lot is just very labor intensive, and there's just no way around it. Not this.
So you're at 60 now, and even once the facility's done, you'll go.
Yeah, I think those are conservative numbers. Right.
60 when the facility's done, or 60 now?
60 now.
And you'll go to,
I think we estimated 13, 14, I think, right? But I tend to think those are conservative numbers if everything goes reasonably well.
Do you provide weapons,
Yes.
weight Neptunes?
Well, Neptunes, what do you mean by Neptunes?
That's like a little seafood that's.
Oh, the Neptune salad, yes, no,
No.
that's something else.
My husband loves those for lunch.
So we sell them, their farm salmon, their haddock, their cod, their salmon burgers, the wild salmon when it's in season, did I say halibut? And then some appetizers. So one of the things we want to do with the new facility is sort of get some more prepared food, get some more appetizers, things like that.
Seafood salad.
What's that?
Seafood
Yes,
salad.
seafood salad. But yeah, try to do more of that stuff. One of the things I plan on doing is hiring a chef, sort of try to create some recipes and do some things like that.
Okay, any other questions? All right. Let's see, do we have a local, we had a public hearing?
We did.
So we had a public hearing on the 14th, there were no comments.
Right.
And let's see, I'll ask you some local labor questions. Are you aware of our local labor policy?
I am.
And do you anticipate any local labor exemptions at this time? And are you aware that any exemptions need to be requested for you by state?
I am not.
Thank you. The secret process is complete. We've waived the reading of the resolution in the packets. I'll now ask for a motion for inducement and final resolution approving real property tax abatement, mortgage reporting tax exemption, and sales tax exemption.
So moved.
Been moved by Brett, seconded by Troy. Any other questions? I'll take a roll call vote. Dave, Lisa is absent. Troy?
Yay.
Joe?
Yay.
Brett?
Yay.
And Ann is a yay. So motion carries.
Thank you. Thank you.
Continued success to you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you again.
Our next project is a modification. It's a modification and request is by Home Leasing. And Brett Garland and Jennifer Higgins are here.
Home Leasing LLC is proposing to acquire and redevelop an existing commercial building into a mixed-use, mixed-income community in the city of Rochester. This project consists of 134 affordable apartments for low-income older adults and will provide 77,000 square feet of manufacturing space for agreement. The applicant was approved for a shelter rent real property tax abatement, mortgage reporting tax, and sales tax exemptions, and the applicant is now requesting to extend the terms of the shelter rent real property tax abatement an additional 5 years from 30 to 35 years.
Right there.
Hi,
Would you like to add?
sure. I think you're well aware of the project. We're really excited. We hope to start it in June or July this year. Everything's moving forward towards that. And this request stems from our financing. We're working with New York State Housing Finance Agency. They issue tax exempt bonds for the project. And one of the strategies to help the project move forward is to have a permanent loan of 35 years as opposed to 30 years. So our tax abatement has to be coterminous with the 35 years, otherwise, it won't underwrite, it'll look like it would fail by the year 30. So it's a pretty technical change, and it's really helpful from the state of New York to do this. It helps reduce the need for other government resources.
The fact that you're providing housing to frail seniors and people who would otherwise be homeless in the apartments.
Yeah, we're working with,
That's very impressive.
yeah, thank you. We're working with an organization called People Inc., and about a third of the units will be frail seniors who are either at risk of homelessness or homeless. It's a pretty important population to serve in that part of the city.
And the great continuation of the agreement.
Yes, really.
This gives them more space too. right?
It gives them less space,
Oh,
but more
less
efficient space.
More efficient.
They have 235,000 square foot facility. They only need 77,000 square feet. This isn't a reduction in their production capacity. It's just an increase in the efficient use of the space. They're really spread out all over the place.
You guys are still wearing suits.
I am. It's a little tighter than it was last time on board, actually. But it's made up by North Clinton, I assure you.
Any questions?
So being that this is low-income housing, senior assisted living, I gotta believe that some of these rents are gonna be subsidized. So why do you feel going from 30 to 35 is a game crusher for financing? It's very concerning with the housing market going on right now. And my other concern is, I questioned last week, the amount of incentive on this project is almost at 72%. We're talking about a lot of money, and we, as a board, discussed heavily on a 30-year shelter rent pilot. And that was a heavy discussion with the board. Now to come back at 35, I guess I need to understand better why you're not comfortable with this low-income housing component and assisted living component, that you're not gonna get your money.
Well, the way that affordable housing is financed explains the high level of subsidy. The projects are created so that they can keep rents low for basically the duration of the entire project. So while we are financing for 35 years, we will likely have a regulatory agreement that's at least that long, probably 50 years. But effectively, this will be low-income housing forever. That means our rents are going to be affordable to low-income people forever. And we only increase the rents according to approvals from the state. So the way that projects are able to be funded and stay affordable forever is that they operate basically at a break-even point of view. We don't make our funding or our revenue through the operations of the building. We make it through a developer fee for the project. The change in permanent debt from 30 to 35 years helps reduce the government subsidies and helps make the project feasible. We have to, raise enough money to build it, and this way we have a larger first mortgage. The only change on the financing between the 30 and the 35 years is that our mortgage would be larger. The other issue is a 30-year shelter rent tax abatement is just plain, I can't think of a project, an affordable housing project done in this area that didn't have a 30 or 35-year tax abatement. And this is a tax abatement that we would typically get through the city of Rochester, but we're here at COMIDA because of the combination of the commercial component. The city can't approve a tax abatement like that.
Do we have the Cedarwood Towers?
Cedarwood Towers is a 40-year pilot term, also coterminous with the financing. If the financing is different, we've done a number of shelter rents where it was appropriate to have a 30-year pilot term, but you want to always make sure it lines up with financing on these types of deals.
basically the state is selling bonds and people will not buy bonds unless the operating costs and the financing term is the same.
Good job.
You want your mortgage paid off before the property taxes start, is it basically? what you're talking
Basically, that's true. So basically,
about? So you change amortization from a 30 to a 35.
exactly. The difference to revenue to home leasing on this change is zero, right? We don't benefit directly at all. It's just the project that becomes more feasible because we raise more first
Did
mortgage.
you go 30 to 35 because of the change in rates, is that?
Well, lots of things moved, but we went from 30 to 35 because Housing Financing Agency wanted the mortgage to be higher to reduce the state subsidy amounts available. Sorry, it's technical, but I'm happy to keep answering
You're here to
questions.
answer
Yeah.
questions. Troy?
Well, I was concerned, yes. I just don't. 35 years, I probably won't be here. 40 years, we won't be here, but we're gonna set stuff in place that's, it seems to be something that's changing forever, new rules and new guidelines. I guess my next question would be, with the incentive, you're planning on instituting Davis-Bacon and DASNY with the housing elements and prevailing grade for this project come into play?
They do not. There's nothing in the funding of this project that requires prevailing wage or Davis-Bacon wage rates. There's no financing that triggers those requirements.
So there's, and even federally, there's no component?
We don't have any federal funds that would trigger Davis-Bacon. But we have very high standards from the state for MWBE compliance and workforce compliance.
Even more, sir. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right. I'll ask for a motion to extend the term of the pilot agreement from 30 years to 35 years. So, Brett, is there a second?
I'll second.
Joe? Any other comments, questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed?
Aye. So 3 days and 1 day. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And actually, that we don't have sufficient votes on the motion. We don't, we are, yeah,
So,
we need
yes,
4.
4 is the minimum, right?
Our board is 3, our board is 6. Yeah, we need 4.
So they'd have to come back, Rachel?
We'll come back at the May meeting.
When is your May meeting? You have financing, I have to release my financing contingency on April 30th,
Okay.
right?
Well, our
We have
May meeting is
financing-
not until the 17th. Are there any,
The
is there
HFA
anything?
board is on May 16th, so I'm happy to stand and ask questions.
HFA, the state meets on the 16th.
Yes, that's their board meeting.
Okay, so perhaps we can have a little more discussion. Is there anything, other information that myself or Brett can provide to make you comfortable, Troy?
I would add that this is how every affordable housing project is funded, that I've ever worked on in my entire career. This is a shelter rent 10% is how every project in the city of Rochester that's affordable housing has ever been done.
I can attest to that as well. That's accurate. Is it a particular,
Well, has any that you worked on failed where you haven't been the whole or a profit?
Oh, certainly, absolutely. We've done projects where we've lost money, absolutely.
Well, in this scenario with the shelter rent,
We definitely have projects where we have, especially over the last couple of years, where we are paying into the project to keep them operational and affordable, right? If we are obligated and we provide operating deficit guarantees to our funders. So if our rents and revenues are lower than our operating costs, that comes out of our pocket. This does also represent an increase in the amount of taxes that the project or that the property pays currently. And so that's substantial.
Any other concerns we can address?
My question was there any shelter projects that we did, that we lost money in a specific project?
Right.
Oh,
Can
you,
names-
sorry, I thought you
Can I go back and do my homework? Because this is, I love the project, I voted yes on the project. I struggled with the 30-year pilot until we got educated. Here we're coming back, we're readdressing it. The first time, and I don't know if the other board members saw the 71.25% incentive on this project.
It was actually higher when we originally approved the project. So when we reran the cost benefit analysis, the benefit actually came down. Ideally, we would have had the 35-year term at the initial approval, but as Brad explained, this was an after-the-fact HFA change. We've had other projects with longer-term shelter rents. They need to be the same term as the financing in order for the project to work. Without this, without our approval today, it will likely derail the entire project with needing the financing put together by the 30th and, the state meeting. So it is rather detrimental to the project.
I don't think I understand the 71%.
We are required to do a cost benefit analysis that provides the amount of incentive to benefit. It's a ratio that we have to do for New York State to determine whether prevailing wage applies. However, prevailing wage does not apply on affordable housing projects. They're entirely carved out of the.
So that means that the 71, I don't understand that.
So if we had a project where 30% of the total project costs, an amount equal to 30% of the total project costs were considered public funds, prevailing wage rate would apply. However, here we're saying it's roughly 70%, but I think
There's an affordable
another,
housing carve-out in the
there's
legislation.
for this very reason, but also I believe there are more sources of funds too that, we have disclosed a $53 million project, which is accurate. Are there any other sources of funds? Is your project?
Well, I don't know how you calculate public funding, but approximately half of this project is private equity that stems from tax credits, historic and low-income housing tax credits. I consider that a private source, actually.
Right.
But all of affordable housing is entirely publicly funded, right? There isn't, the reason there's not private equity from the developer in the project is because you can't make a return on the investment because the rents are low, right? We keep the rents low.
So you'll necessarily have a very high ratio on on affordable housing projects, given the nature of the financing of them.
Any other questions?
So what we can do is, we'll come, we'll connect with you after the meeting and discuss next steps on. We have the authority to do remote meetings through May 15th, so perhaps we can do a special meeting when we have the rest of the board members prior to April 30th,
Just for this project.
just for this.
All right, I'll be in touch.
Thanks, Brad.
All right, the next modification is Erie Station 41 LLC. And Gary is up with us.
Yes.
Erie Station 241 LLC, a real estate holding company, is renovating and equipping 2 vacant facilities for its tenant, Cooper Vision Incorporated, in the town of Henrietta. Cooper Vision is a world-leading manufacturer of contact lenses. The renovated and expanded facility will be used for packaging and distribution of contact lenses. In January 2022, the applicant was approved for a real property tax abatement, mortgage reporting tax, and sales tax exemptions. The applicant is now requesting an increase in project costs of $7,324,207. The total project cost is now $27,260,822. The new sales tax exemption amount is not to exceed $937,243, and the mortgage recording tax exemption amount is not to exceed $199,788.
Thanks, Bonnie. Gary?
Yes. Thank you for hearing our modification. I had in the modification, as you saw, the reasons for the increase. About the, for example, the interior build out, interior office build out.
Page 108, that's.
And as far as that was an additional, that doubled in size from the original discussion with supervision. And that added, for example, that added 1.2 million to the project. They also requested a second generator for the property, and that is was $200,000. So there was several items that were added to it, as well as just the sheer increase in materials, construction materials.
Doubled in size, basically.
Yes, as far as the dollars or?
The square footage.
Well,
You're going
their
from
building
10,000
is,
to
the
almost
building,
20,000
well,
square feet.
this building, actually, the original building is 241,000 square feet. They're adding 156,000 square feet to it.
The application says that the interior office build out.
That's just the office build out.
That's.
In the original approval, they're adding 156,000 square feet. Inside of that is this office build out. Yes,
Double in size.
yes, and that's what doubled in size. Yes.
So the 156 hasn't changed?
No,
It's just the office inside the 156?
yeah, and that's just one piece of it, yes.
Right.
They
The
had-
loading docks have increased.
We had, so these are, I'm going to read from what I have from the contractor, which does not coincide with the order that you have on the modification agreement, but they are all the items. Structural steel package, there was a change in that from the K bracing, 2.2 million. Mezzanine office we discussed a second ago was 1.2 million increase. Let's see, they asked for additional parking, 75 spots, that's $100,000. Generator, the second generator, $200,000. And the loading docks added $100,000, the two additional loading docks. We are also carrying an allowance of $1 million for potential increase in materials over the course of the project. We believe we have things pretty much locked up, but in case there's any additions or changes made, or there's somehow something happens in the marketplace with the materials further, there was a little bit of a built-in allowance.
How long is the lease they're giving you?
There is no lease. They are, in the end, purchasing the property. They're purchasing the original property. When the project is completed in August of next year, August 31st, I believe, is our end date for our piece. They have 2 months to review that work. They have 2 months to ready the space with their interior setup. And then they are purchasing the original space and this expansion space, which is roughly 400,000 square feet.
Okay, thank you.
And this is the national distribution, this is their national distribution center.
Any other questions?
Good.
All right, thank you, Gary.
Yep.
We will waive the reading of the resolution, which we have on that. And I'll ask for a motion to approve an increase in project cost of $7,324,207. Moved by Brett, seconded by Joe. Any other comments, questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks for joining us today, and good luck with the project.
Thank you, I'll see you in a few minutes.
Oh. What is it? Got another one on,
Our interlude project.
which one?
525.
Oh, sure. Okay. All right, the next project modification is 587 LLC. On
587 LLC, a real estate holding company, is proposing to redevelop a vacant building in the city of Rochester into an apartment complex. The new building will consist of 16 market rate apartments ranging in size from 453 square feet to 841 square feet. 2 of the 16 units will be affordable units for households earning equal or less than 60% of the adjusted median income. In October 2021, the applicant was approved for a real property tax abatement, mortgage recording tax exemption, and sales tax exemption. The applicant is requesting an increase in project costs of $516,718 due to an increase in construction costs. The total project cost is now $1,792,718, and the new sales tax exemption benefit amount is not to exceed $49,207.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay, I'll ask for a motion to approve an increase in project costs of $516,718. Your motion. Moved by Troy, seconded by Red. Any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, next project is Top Capital of the New York Rockport LLC. This is an assignment and an assumption. On
Top Capital of New York, Rockport LLC, a real estate development company, constructed a 90-unit independent and assisted senior living residence in the town of Sweden. The project was approved for a Jobs Plus property tax abatement in October of 2015, and the applicant is now requesting approval to assume the real property tax abatement.
Okay, so Top Capital is the assigner. Tony Salino is the assignee to assume the real property tax. I'll ask a motion. Motion to approve the sale of the facility and assignment of the real property
So I
tax.
got a question. So
Okay.
the project was approved, it had an abatement for sale, for property taxes, and they now they're selling it,
That's correct.
correct? And they want to, the buyer wants to assume it.
Right.
Do we have any idea what they're paying for?
No.
You know, what year was the abatement given, do you know?
In 2015, the abatement was approved October of that year. So
And it's senior living, not low income, correct?
Senior, independent and assisted senior living, yeah.
Any other questions on that? There's a motion. Sarah motion. Moved by Brett, seconded by Troy. Any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, project modification is the approval of a new tenant, and that's 525 East Broad LLC.
Back from commercial
Very good
break.
with that. You wanna fix-
525 East Broad LLC constructed 4 buildings in the city of Rochester's neighborhood Clay, and the project was originally approved in August 2019 for a custom real property tax abatement. The applicant is now seeking approval for a new tenant, Fatty Beer Company, which is a bottle shop, tap room, and a craft community experience business. The company currently has 5 locations in Buffalo and Ellicottville, New York, and they will occupy approximately 1,800 square feet in Building D.
Fatty Beer.
Eddie Beer, the owner's name founder's name is Nick Fatty. Been in business for I'm going to say 4+ years. This is all through my research. They're in Orchard Park, Hamburg, North Tonawanda, City of Buffalo, and Ellicottville. Let's see. And if you look at their menu, taco bowls, sandwiches, which were mostly in Mexican in nature, and the sides and snacks and salsas. All, small pub menu, seem to be more Mexican themed, if you will. They have over 500+ craft beers, according to their site, and they will deliver. And they also are dog friendly, as well as people friendly.
Is this a separate building?
No, this is part of Building D.
What else is in Building D?
Building D is multifamily and retail on the street level.
Okay, so it's a mixed.
Yes, there is, I believe in Building D, there is 70-something units, 75 units maybe. And on the street level is the retail.
I see.
And they will be the first commercial tenant or retail tenant for Building D. In those 4 buildings is Building C, also, which is solely retail. It's about a 6,500 square foot building, and Nirvana was approved already by this board as the tenant for that building. And we had a couple other ones that we were speaking to about spaces in there. They didn't work out for one reason or another. We continue to try and fill in, and B is almost like a mirror image of D. I don't know if you've been over by it at all, by the Museum of Play or over by, but
I've been tested, I haven't got it.
Building B and Building D are kind of mirror images. They have the street level retail, but above it is all multifamily. And then C was the only one that was is solely retail, but it's a small building, comparatively small.
Okay, great, thank you. Any other questions?
Rachel, it doesn't change the amount, it's just a tenant
Right.
change, correct?
Yes.
So we knew when we approved the project that the retail
Who the
space
tenant
was
was.
vacant, and we would need to keep coming back once they got tenants on board. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll ask for a motion to approve sublease to a new tenant at the facility.
A motion.
By Joe, is there a second? Second by Red. Any other questions, changes? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Got anything else?
Does it upset another light?
I'm done with this one for now.
Thank
Hopefully
you.
we see you again soon. So we still have 5. I think the way it's designed, we have probably 5 spaces left that we'd like to fill with some retail.
All right.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and the last modification is the Seneca Building Partners LLC. That's also a tenant.
Seneca Building Partners LLC constructed an addition to the Seneca Building at Midtown Plaza in the city of Rochester for the Democrat Front. This project was originally approved in September of 2014 for a pest and real property tax abatement. The applicant is now seeking approval for a new tenant, the city of Rochester, for the Police Accountability Board office, which will be subleasing 20,000 square feet on the first floor of that building.
Anyone here?
No.
All right, questions from the board? All right, I'll ask for a motion to approve a sublease to a new tenant at the facility. And this also is seconded by Joe. Any other questions? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Ms. Executive Director, Lonnie Bliss, welcome back.
Thank you, it's good to be back.
You have a great team.
Yes, I
And
do.
you kept the house from burning down or anything. while you were out. But we did miss you in a certificate.
Likewise. And I want to commend the team, get that on the record, they're doing an excellent job in my absence as well as the board. It's great to see all of your faces again. In the interest of time, I'll try to keep this brief. I do have one item that's not listed here on the agenda that I've got to bring up for the record today, and that's in regards to our Paris report. The Paris report originally was due March 31st. That's not yet been submitted by the team, and as reported by the comptroller's office regarding the 2020 report, we should not submit that report until we have all of the information that's required. Per Deputy Director Robin Finnerty, the holdup is from a handful of projects that still have not returned their annual reports to COMIDA, specifically information about their current number of FTEs. So we're down to just 13 projects at this point that haven't yet submitted, and which our team is still pursuing for that information. Again, per the comptroller's office, the preference is for a fully accurate report, more so than getting something to them post haste. And Rachel can comment on any next steps or if you have any questions about that.
Mhm.
Any questions?
So we're sending out the demand letters, you have 2 days to respond or something.
Right,
What do we
so Robin and Julie have been in regular communication. I don't think there are any projects that we haven't heard from.
I don't think so.
We've heard from everyone, it's just, they'll say, we're working on it, and then it hasn't been submitted. So we've made contact with everyone.
Is there a time frame, Rachel, you give me, say, look, you have so many days? What's the time frame?
Well, it was supposed to be submitted by February,
Mid-February.
mid-February.
We give them 30 days.
Well, when we send a default notice, we typically give 30 days to cure, but we haven't gone to that because we'll have to look at each individual project and determine what our remedies are, because the projects are from all years and we have to look at the underlying documents on a case by case for remedies. Right now, we haven't started any formal process. It's just trying to get these folks to respond.
How many folks are we talking about?
13. Lucky number 13.
Okay, so you'll keep us apprised.
Yes.
It's one of the, I think, downsides of having such robust project volume.
Mhm.
We have a lot of projects to wrangle for the reporting requirements.
We'll drop a hammer the next month.
And next up on the list, I'm very pleased that we have Tyrone Reeves here with us today. Tyrone is with YAMTEP. YAMTEP stands for Young Adult Manufacturing Technical, I wrote down the Training and Employment Program. YAMTEP is, has a presence in many jurisdictions outside of the greater Rochester region. Tyrone has a strong working relationship with the county executive. I'm pleased that this is the first request that's come through to our $2.5 million workforce development fund that we established through COMIDA's modernization initiative. The request before the board for consideration today is for $400,000 to support YAMTEP's work in Monroe County. And this is an initiative that's supported by many other stakeholder partners, including by the city of Rochester. And the information about this proposal is in your packet on page 135. And without further ado, I would love to give Tyrone the floor to speak a little bit about YAMTEP and answer any questions.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for
Good to be
joining
here.
us.
Obviously, I'm Tyrone Reeves. I'm a local Rochesterian, born and raised here. I'm also a small manufacturing business owner. I own a CNC machining and sheet metal fabrication facility with about 160 total employees, 200,000 total square feet of space. YAMTEP is a labor of love for me in my community. Like every other company in our region, we all have a tough time finding employees. So what I did, instead of complaining about it, I got this young man here, Chris Black. He actually handles the day-to-day operations of YAMTEP, and we started our own training program. And we use manufacturing-based training. And what I did was I went out and recruited 10 or 12 friends of mine who are business owners, and I said, hey, listen, would you guys mind being employer partners? There's no cost to be an employer partner, but if I take this population of folks returning back to our communities from incarceration, and we work with the Department of Corrections and parole officers, we work with high schools, and we work with the substance abuse organizations and clinics, and I train these folks in this population that's hard to train. Would you be willing to hire them if they meet your requirements? Without any guarantees, you don't have to guarantee you hire them. Come in and interview them. If you like them, we'll hire them. That was the very first class. The very first class, we had 10 students. Out of the 10 students, 7 came through the program, and 7 got employed, and I cried. I literally cried. I was like, man, this is 70%. I've never been 70% at anything. You know, we're 100%, not 70. And this one young man named Joe Wesley, he works for Danny Wegmans and Wegmans, he pulled me to the side and kind of tapped me on the neck. He says, what the heck's wrong with you? He says, 70%. So, do you recognize other programs are like 15%? 15%? Then I didn't know whether to cry or to be angry. And we're actually funding 15%? So we just went about our day-to-day business and just started adding training. And today, when we look at that pamphlet, we went after the city of Rochester first. Our facilities are located in the city. And at the time, Mayor Warren said, hey, would you be willing to fund this? And she said, sure, we'll fund you, but prove to me that it'll work. And I said, great. So, I put my own financial resources into it and proved that it would work. And then we went over to ESL and said, hey, we've proven that this will work. Would you be willing to fund this? ESL came back and said, I'll tell you what, we'll fund you for 1 year. And after a year, we'll sign a multi-year funding agreement with you if your numbers still hold true. And then we went to the Ralph C. Wilson Jr. Foundation, and we did the same thing with them. And as we've proven that the results were there, we started getting more funding, and that brings us here with you guys.
How many trainers do you have?
Total number of trainers, Chris, what do you have on your staff?
We have up to 10, and right now we're about 4 or 5.
And our entire concept, we kind of run Yamtep like I run manufacturing. In my world of manufacturing, it's a global competition. We don't get to just have cost increases because of cost of living. I increase my product to my customers, I lose my contracts in the discussion. So when I entered into this world of nonprofit, I was just kind of advertising that type of programs we just fund, just in my opinion, with taxpayer dollars, nilly-dilly funding them just because they're in existence with no results. At Yamtep, we have one major result. We don't place people in a job, we fail, period. We failed. So when we look at our employers, we're very, very strong with our employers. If you're really interested, if you're really in a hiring mode, we'll help you. But we're also very frank with the students that come in. If you don't show up every day on time and do what we ask you to do, we're gonna give you a hug. Giving you a hug means we're gonna part our relationship. We're gonna part as friends. So when I see you in Wegmans, I expect you to say hello. But we're not gonna see you in this training program because we're not recommending you to our employers. We survive strictly from our employers knowing that when they get someone from us, that person is ready to go. And I won't kid you, it is a struggle, right? I mean, we're dealing with some of the toughest of the population, and many of these folks, when they come in, they fail. And I know you guys have heard the same stories from employers saying, hey, we get someone in, after 3 or 4 days, they don't show up, they're late, they fail. We kind of put our training in place to eliminate that and kind of get people employment ready from a realistic standpoint. We consider ourselves at Yamtep a prerequisite program. We have probably over 60 employer partners in the region, and you name it, it's a who's who list of all of them. We don't, when we first started the Amtep, we used to knock on doors for employers to ask, hey, would you be willing to hire these folks? Today, we don't knock on doors. We hire. In the beginning of the session here, you had Mark from Toptica. I ran out real quick because I didn't know him. He's not one of our employer partners, but guess what? He is now. So we work with obviously Wegmans, Ortho Clinical, Diagnostics. Our employers range from any employer with 10 employees minimum up to thousands. We don't differentiate. We actually have a CNC machine operator training class. That's one of our curriculums. We have a I call it our no skills training class. Chris calls it our low skills training class. Most of the elected officials don't like the idea of me calling it no skills, but many of our participants have no skills. And I refuse to just color it some other color than what it is. They have no skills. Our job is to get them a skill. When we look at all of our employers, we communicate with everyone and we find out what every employer's requirements are. Every employer doesn't need the same level of skill. I need CNC machine operators. I need programmers. I need subs. When I look at the demographics of my organization, right, I have professional, middle skill, low skill. And yes, it would be nice to be able to hire middle skill and professionals immediately. They're just not there. But when I looked at my low skills positions, I didn't have those either. And I just kind of thought and said, you know what? If I don't have low skills, in my mind, there's no way I'm ever going to get to a middle skills. I just can't, right? Because I don't have a pipeline feeding itself. So at the Amtep, we've kind of created that low skills population to kind of move forward, to kind of help every employer. Part of what we do as well in terms of recruiting people, training them, job place, but we also transport. Many of our employers off the beaten path and not on the RTS bus loop, we transport to them. I was in a meeting yesterday with RTS, and you guys have probably been familiar with Van Pool and some of the ride sharing apps that aren't working. Joe Wesley came to me about 2 years ago and said, hey, will you help Van Pool? What they're doing isn't working. I said, well, I don't know. When you work with some people, they think their idea is the latest and greatest. So we sat down with them, looked at their model, and I said, hey, listen, here's what I would do differently. And to prove to them what we would do, I said, we're going to get some of your vehicles. But Van Pool's model is based off of them going to Joe Alaco's facility, taking one of Joe Alaco's employees, giving them the vehicle, and now having them transport all of your employees to you, with one of your employees being responsible for the vehicle. And I let them know that that's not a model I will subscribe to. We hire our own person as the driver, so that driver is independent. So now if we're taking 15 employees to Joe's place, if that person responsible for the vehicle is sick, all 15 people don't have to miss work. So we changed that model a little bit. We also went in with them and said, you're charging us $2,000 a month for a vehicle. I mean, that's not a very wise proposition. And here's what we'll do. You charge me $600 for the vehicle. I'll cover the insurance, you cover the maintenance, and I'm responsible for the driver. And we've probably been transporting easily, 2 years, 3 years, consistently. We probably transport people Sunday through Saturday, 3 shifts. We have anywhere from 70 to 100 people being transported every day. And we kind of looked at Amtep and said, we are a community test case. We have a lot of great programs out there, a lot of programs who are struggling, some who aren't struggling so much, but we don't communicate with each other. We don't look to try to collaborate. So the one thing we did at Amtep was said, you know what, we're going to set this up where not only do we have employer partners, but we're also going to have our community partners. So we went out to all of these organizations, from Catholic Family Center to Rochester Works, you name it. I went out and personally said, we're gonna collaborate with each and every one of you, and you don't have to pay us a dime. You know, if you're here to really help the community, then let's see, we're gonna make you put your words where your mouth is. And, or you're gonna either eat your words, or you're gonna really look to try to help the community. And we go off and get funding from sources like yours, so that way we don't have to charge any of the students. And I don't have to go to Pathstones or Rochester Works and say, ooh, you need to get me some of your grant money in order for you to participate with us. We kind of made that seamless for those guys. We also kept in mind that, you know, money is real money. You know, I know for me and my business, money is real. So we looked and said, okay, how do we keep this cost down? How do we keep the cost to the taxpayer at a minimum? And that's kind of what we've done as well. I mean, to this very day, for a whopping $3,500 per student, we will recruit, train, job place, transport, you know, for that dollar amount. When I started looking at some of the grants at the state and federal level and the amount that they pay, I'm like, oh my God, that's more than tuition bill. So there were just some things that drove me out of pure frustration. Obviously, there are some things that drove me out of pure need for my own business to survive. And this year, we actually started doing something a little different. I mean, everything I've talked about so far has really been about adults. But to create that continuous pipeline, this year, you know, I drive these guys crazy. Krista, I'll come up with ideas and try something all the time. So I went out and contacted some of the high schools. And I said, hey, we want to start working with your high school seniors today. What I need for you to do, high school principal and counselor, let me know all your students that you have projected to graduate who are not going to school full time, but they're in trouble. They might miss the mark. The very first high school we went to, I'm not going to tell you the name, I almost cried. They had 30 students there. They're only going to school half a day. They were seniors, and they were close to missing the mark of not graduating. Can you tell me why they're only going to school half a day? I couldn't understand it. But what we did was we started working with many of those students. We met with their parents, and we said, hey, you know what? If you're going to work with the student and try to help the student, chances are the parent probably needs help as well. So what we did was we got the parents' approval, the school's approval. We take our vehicles to, right now, it's 2 schools that are running the pilot. Those 2 schools, we pick the students up, bring them over into our training facility, we train them. And while we're training them, we're also paying them $15 an hour to come to the training. But our goal is not to get them a job. Our goal is to get them graduated first. If we can get them graduated, guess what? Now we can give them some options of whether they want to go on to college, they want to go into the workplace, or they want to go in the military. But those students now get to choose what their career option is. And here's the part that I loved about this particular program. You know, we just simply ask the parents, who needs help? Which of you parents need a job? Who needs training? Right? Out of our pilot class of 10 students, 4 of the parents, they came through our adult training and we got them jobs. But those are the things, and this morning I met with Wegmans. Right? They're doing a similar program. And there are a few other companies doing a similar program. You know, instead of reinventing the wheel, I just got with Wegmans and said, listen, can't we just get together? And I could care less if you guys run the entire program. So we have Edison Tech, East High, Leadership Academy, Brighton High School, and Rush Henrietta High School. We have each of these schools already ready to participate, which means they all have students that meet that requirement. When you start looking at the scary nature of this, right, you know, we tend to put this strictly in a city school district environment. But we've been working with Brighton High now for 4 years. My son graduated from Brighton. When my son graduated from Brighton High, he had 301 students in his class. Guess how many graduated? 301. Today, they don't graduate with that 100% number. But many of the suburban schools aren't graduating at 100% number either. And when you start compounding that with the city school district, right, we're going to have an enormous problem that as a community, we're gonna have to deal with. You know, one way or the other. Obviously, you can look up, see the news every day, we're dealing with it. You know, there's shootings and killings and going on every day. We're going to have to come to grips with this and figure out how to get these kids motivated, educated, and trained. Here's the beautiful thing. The employers are willing. We have not had an employer not want to participate. We even have employers for the very first time when we started transporting. And keep in mind, I'm an employer. So when I hear politicians come to me and tell me, hey, listen, you need to pony up, Tyrone. You need to spend more money to get people in your door. You know, I'm like, well, doesn't my community owe me anything? No. Once I get them in my door, I will pony up and spend the money on training them to our business. But now you're asking me to train someone before they even get to my door? Oh, where's the community's responsibility? So many of the employers were feeling the exact same way I was, and we couldn't get them to participate 3-4 years ago. Today, Chris and his team, we have employers now on the transportation side matching the employee's commitment. We make the employee pay $65 a month to be transported. The employers, for the very first time, are starting to actually match their employees' contribution. And I think we can actually get them to go a little further because it makes good business sense. You know, even if you're not responsible at the end of the day, just like I am, you're going to lose your contracts if you don't have workers. So we need to figure this out. This presentation is just an idea for you guys to go through, look at it. Not all of it's factual. We put in there our funding request. We also put in there our performance. Our performances as a program is community knowledge. We give everyone copies of the actual data, how many people we train, how many people we put in jobs, who our employer partners are. You're welcome to come visit us anytime. We're open Monday through Wednesday from 8:30 to 12:30 is our adult training. And our high school students come in Monday through Thursday, all in the afternoon. They all get in at about 1 p.m. and they go till 4. So we welcome you guys to come out and kick the tires. I will always tell you, I don't know the answers. Here's what I do know. I do know that if we try something and it fails, I know enough not to keep doing that. Right? If it works, we're going to implement that and we're going to keep doing that. So the things we've done at the AMTEP are proven things that work. We have, and really through this guy right here, we had State of Ohio asking us to come in and do their workforce development training. We turned them down. If we have problems in our own community, we're going to go here. We don't do this for dollars. We don't do it for money. I funded AMTEP out of my personal pocket for years. And I have absolutely no qualm with continuing to do that. It is just that important to me. But for the most part, our success rate is right there. If you talk with anyone in the community, we don't advertise. I refuse to advertise. I refuse to go on TV. We let our work speak for itself. And our work, our history with the AMTEP, we haven't had to advertise yet. Chris's classes stay full. We have not had to shut down because we didn't have students. That's the other thing that really flabbergasted me. All these programs are saying they don't have people to come into the program. They can't get trained people. We haven't had that issue at all. Not in the least bit. We just had MCC optics program and just ask us, can we take your high school kids and enroll them into our program? We're like, guys, we just started this. We have no idea what these high school kids are capable of just yet. And you want us to roll over to you now? And no, we're not going to do that. We're going to keep working with them and kind of get a feel for what their interests are, what their talent levels are. And as we work with every organization and every employer, we're going to try to match that person up with the right employer. That yields a much better success rate. We've had, we're probably as a program over the last 6 years, we're definitely above 77% success rate. Today, Chris is putting together his team. We're starting to get some significant numbers out there in the community. What are your totals? You're almost over 1,000 students?
We're almost up to 1,000 enrolled. We have about 750 that have completed the program that, didn't drop. And then we have about 540 that are employed.
So as we create that data, now we're trying to get into the retention pieces of it, so we're working with the Department of Labor and others, so we can track where these people are. That's probably the biggest deficiency that we have right now is really knowing where they're all at today.
So Chris, where in the program do you start with safety? In the construction world, if you get out on a job site, it's a 10-hour OSHA. I know that in manufacturing in the CNC, you have to have a 10-hour OSHA and manufacturing requirement to be certified to work in most of our manufacturing facilities in town. When do you start the safety with especially the high school students? For me, I can't get an OSHA 10 until they turn 18. So that internship at sophomore, junior year of high school is a struggle and it's an obstacle. I just wondered where the safety stood with your program. And
most of our students with the high school, we're developing that now. Most of our students are above 18. Our average age for our adults is probably about 34. So we leave that with the employer as we take them through our training program, and the employers deal with that. As we're working with the high schoolers right now, once we start getting them into hardcore machine operator, then yes, we would have to start to implement a lot of the OSHA 10 requirements. We don't now because most of their training is blueprint reading.
you started out on a mill and a lathe before you get into a CNC.
Absolutely. But that is coming. We ran a pilot this year. Next year, we're probably going to have easily 20 students. And yes,
This is great. This is great. It's a good breath of fresh air. You're going to see me sooner than later. On Black Street.
That was wonderful.
I'm over there all the time, so I will make a point to come see you.
Please do. Please do.
So the request before us.
Yes, there is a request for you. The request before you is $400,000 a year for 5 years, for a total of $2 million. That's the request. As we have with every other organization that's funded us, we look at the first year as a prove it out measurement year. I wrote most of the agreements with all of our funding sources. And even with our funding sources, for instance, with the city of Rochester, we say we're going to train this many people. We bill them once every 2 months. At any given time, they can pull the funding if our performance is not there. That was a request by me. But we also look to say, oh, we think this measurable model can be successful with taxpayer dollars. My goal, in all honesty, is to get all taxpayer dollars having a hardcore measurement on it, instead of us just giving funding to let there be a measurement. We did the same thing with Ralph C. Wilson, the same thing with ESL. And our goal is the same thing with you guys. Here's our funding. And when I mean on an annual basis, we bill multiple times in a year. So with the city of Rochester, they generally give us a full year to hit our total numbers. Because from class to class to class, you could be down. But they can pull that funding anytime at their discretion, not mine.
The request that we're asking for the board to approve today is for one of those years. Yes.
Okay.
Great.
Any
Any
other
questions?
questions?
Is there discussion? I thought I read it somewhere when we got our packages, that the city is, we're supposed to be doing similar with the city, but the city's at 600,000. Can somebody?
Yes. When I originally came into funding request with the county, that was last September or August. Since then, the city has increased their funding. So that's where the difference is.
Thank you.
I just didn't have the heart to come in and ask you guys to go for 600,000.
I don't have a problem with it.
Okay, any other questions? All right, thank you very much for your thorough presentation.
We appreciate you guys' time. And by all means, please come visit.
So I'll ask for a motion to authorize the contract with Abatement, Inc. to provide a workforce development manufacturing training program in Monroe County for $400,000 for 1 year. Moved by Joe, seconded by Troy. Any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations.
Thank you.
We'll look forward to the environment.
Thank you very much.
Good to see you.
Okay, any other items of business?
The dashboard is an item on your agenda. In the interest of time, I won't go into particulars on the numbers. However, you will see in next month's meeting that Workforce Development Fund number will reflect committed funds of $400,000 to Amtech. And glad that this is an item of discussion going forward, so we can review our metrics throughout the year. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't have any additional items. We have a motion to adjourn. Second. Brian, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you all.
Wow, thanks, Joel. We'll be in touch with what we discussed on our remote meeting.
Yeah, yeah.
Good.